Let's talk about Italy. So Italy is instead of turning to communism, turns to fascism. Um, Remember, Italy is such a young country, right? Italy only became a country in the 1880s, and it has it it has a lot of problems. And getting involved in World War One was not helpful. And unemployment and inflation soared at the end of the war, and radical workers and peasants occupied factories and seized land by 1920. So along comes Mussolini. He's a school teacher and originally a socialist and a war veteran, and he starts to organize former veterans and fascists, and he kind of combined socialism and nationalism, but then he decides socialism isn't the way to go. So Mussolini's black shirts attacked socialists and their organizations, expelling them from city governments in northern Italy. And he seizes power um, through a combinations of violence and legally in 1922. Now I'm turning to another slideshow, and this should be familiar to some of you. Um, and I'm not going to show you all of it, but you can check it out. And but basically, Miss Herring's made this, and this explains it nicely. It's like college-bound students are fearful that they won't get good grades, and scores on the big tests are coming up. The principal is somehow powerless to control the disruptive potheads who want to take down the system. But then you have the top hats. This is like the fascists are a rowdy, violent group that swagger around talking tough. One day in chemistry class, one of the jerky potheads started causing trouble, and Eddie, the leader of the top hats, grabbed the kid, shoved him against the wall, and dragged him outside with his nose bleeding. Amazingly, the teacher simply kept teaching as if nothing had happened. The room was quiet, and everyone got on with the experiment that they were doing. From then on, you hardly heard of any trouble or in the halls, but the top hats patrolled the school as if they owned it. The next week, there were student council elections. Eddie ran for president under a slogan of bringing back order. He ran against Leon, one of the potheads who wanted to overturn the school system, and Sarah, a shy college-bound student. So vote for Eddie, the man in the top hat. Bring back order and achievement. Vote for Leon, the revolutionary. Vote for Sarah. So fascism is obviously the top hats. And Mussolini capitalized on this kind of chaos, and he used violence and such to help achieve power, but he also brought some stability. So this is Mussolini's ideas on fascism. War alone brings up to the highest tension of all human energy and puts the stamp of nobility among the peoples who have the courage to meet it. The foundation of fascism is the conception of the state, its character, its duty, and its aim. The state is absolute. All groups are to be conceived of in relation to the state. The fascist state organizes the nation, but leaves a sufficient margin of liberty to the individual. The latter is deprived of all useless freedom, but retains what is essential. The deciding power in this question cannot be the individual, but the state alone. So part of what he does with that is he's very good at addressing crowds. He is a very strong leader, and he wants to bring Italy back to the idea of the Roman Empire. He's super into that. So he wants to, unity is more important than individualism. Fascism actually comes um, Latin, from the bound sticks used for the Roman Empire. And democracy, the state serves the people, and fascism, the people serve the state. So war veterans were a lost generation everywhere, but also in Italy. And they found a home in the black shirts. So this was Mussolini's kind of gang of people, and they beat up communists, and that was kind of their fun. And the reason that Italy was susceptible to fascism, as was Germany, was a weak constitutional monarchy. Germany didn't have a monarchy, but many competing parties, corruption, desperately poor rural population, growing popularity of communists and socialists, post-World War economic depression, disappointment over lack of gains from the war, strikes, fear of communist takeover, high unemployment, and inflation. So in 1921, fascists win 35 out of 500 seats. In 1922, the March on Rome, mass support for Mussolini, and King Victor Emmanuel says, okay, I'm going to appease the people by appointing Mussolini prime minister or premier. So what he does as premier is he passes the 2/3 law, and he says the political party with the most votes will receive 2/3 of the seats. So read that again. The political party with the most votes will receive 2/3 of the seats in parliament. So the fascist party gets 65% of the seats. And then he eliminates government, basically a freely elected government, and becomes a dictator. So the Lateran Accords, this is something you should write down. Mussolini wins over the Catholic Church, and Vatican City is declared autonomous, and Catholic religious education is compulsory. So this is why the Catholic Church is considered a bit complicit in World War II, because they made this agreement with Mussolini. So one of the parts of fascism is that they want like more kids, and an improved quality of kids. And there's an Italian eugenics movement, and you can read more about that here. And there's racial segregation, and that restricted the rights of Jews, and banned them from from public office and higher education. So you may be wondering now, what's the difference between communism and fascism? So you see the similarities: one party state. Here you have collective values. Here you have the state is powerful, the citizen serves the state. Here you have a classless society, no private property. Here you have cooperating classes, rule by and for the working class, extreme nationalism, glorification of the past. equality, corporate state, international revolutions, a master race, anti-imperialism, although this changes with Stalin, pro-imperialism, left wing, right wing. So we'll get to this in a second. I think I did this already. So one of the ways that he, this wasn't in that PowerPoint, one of the ways that he got rid of democracy was that there was a murder of, you see the pattern here. There was a murder of a politician who was a socialist, and so this was a way for him to consolidate power. Who killed him and who ordered the murder is actually kind of a, interesting idea. So, okay, I told you the Lateran Agreement, that's important. And characteristics of fascists. Also, Italy took military action against Ethiopia. And also, Italy passed these Jewish laws, but they weren't aggressively enforced. And actually, it wasn't until Hitler took over Italy, because of Mussolini ended up losing power, that's when the Jews of Italy ended up going to concentration camps.